That brings us to our superintendent's report. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Gant. Board members, community members, it is a celebratory time in School District 5. Across our school community, we have a variety of programs going on over the course of this week and next week. We encourage all of you to check our website, where Ms. Goggins and her team have placed all the events that we have going on in the evening that are open up to our families and community members to attend. So we hope that we can open our doors to bring you in to celebrate the talents of our students, the skills of our staff, and the wonderful programs they put together for us. In addition to the Chapin Cheer that we celebrated tonight, in case you didn't know, Dutch Fork High School football team has a four-peat of winning the 5A state championship yet again. So congratulations to Dutch Fork High School. Dr. Jakes and I had the privilege to be there to watch the game, and we were ready to go win if they needed us in double overtime. I kept eating cookies, so I'm so glad it ended with only one because I was nervous, Mr. Gant. But what a game between Dutch Fork and Dorman. But Dutch Fork High School continues to write history because they are the only school to have won the 5A state championship title. So congratulations to them. Ms. Goggins is trying to coordinate when that team could come and be recognized, hopefully in the month of January or February at the latest. So we look forward to that. Our one report this evening is actually from the Office of Finance and Operations. I'll ask Mr. Richardson to get us started on that agenda item in that report for this evening. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Dr. Melton. Members of the board, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Matthew Hodges. He's the audit manager with Burkett. He's here to present our 2019, fiscal year 2019 audit.
Good evening. Thank you all very much for your time this evening. I'm here to address the results of our audit for fiscal year 2019. I have a different presentation up, but I'm going to keep on moving. So tonight I'm going to provide a brief introduction to our team, address our required audit communications, and provide a brief summary of the financial statements. And of course, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding our audit. So our team, Larry Montague is our audit partner in our West Columbia office. I serve as audit manager, and Zach Buchanan performed the procurement audit. We want to express our thanks to the finance team, Lynn Richardson, Bruce Shealy, Connie Frick, Leanne London, and all of the employees who did such a great job of giving us everything that we needed for our audit in a very timely manner. Pleased to report there were no disagreements with management over the course of performing our audit. There were no consultations with any other accountants as a second opinion. There were no issues that were discussed with us as a condition of our retention as your auditors. And we did not encounter any difficulties in performing our audit, and again, we received full cooperation. There was one change in accounting policy that just wanted to bring to your attention this evening. The food service fund in the past has been treated as an enterprise fund, and so that has been converted from an enterprise fund to a special revenue fund. We feel that more accurately reflects the operations of food service, as well as the fact that it's mainly driven by grant revenue. And in the course of performing a conversion, that did increase the beginning fund balance of food service by $7 million. The fiscal year 2020, just to look ahead to that audit, we do anticipate a change, again, in your accounting policies related to a new accounting standard. That relates to the pupil activity funds. Historically, those have been treated as fiduciary funds, and those we anticipate due to this new standard will be moved to the special revenue fund section of the balance sheet and income statement. So that will be a change just to look at to next year in your report. So our audit was performed based on our knowledge of the district and your activities. We used professional judgment in determining sample sizes to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance because we're not testing 100% of transactions. In performing our audit, we did not note any instances of non-compliance with your district policies. We have addressed 4 reports and offered 4 reports as a result of our audits. They all had clean opinions. The first was an unmodified clean opinion on the financial statements themselves. Secondly, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting. Third, we issued an unmodified clean opinion related to your compliance with your major federal award programs. And lastly, a clean opinion related to the procurement audit. So looking at where the district is now, you're in good financial position due to your leadership and foresight. Your bond ratings were an AA rating from Standard & Poor's, as well as an AA9 rating from Moody's. We saw sound financial management in terms of your budget process, as well as in the district receiving the ASBO and GFOA certificates of excellence in financial reporting. These are very rigorous programs which take quite a bit of effort by your staff to receive those awards. So they're certainly to be commended for that. And also wanted to point out this is the 16th consecutive year that your district has been awarded these awards. As you know, District 5 is a growing district. Your student population increased by 175 students compared to the prior year. Property value also increased about 2.5% compared to the prior year. That being said, the general fund balance increased by $3.8 million during fiscal year 2019. Revenues generated $5.2 million of that increase compared to last year. There was $2 million of additional local property tax revenues, about $1.7 million in additional revenues from the state for fringe benefits, as well as $1.5 million for state revenues in lieu of taxes, as well as EFA funds. The expenditures increased by $6 million. That is namely due to salary increases to employees, increases that were required for insurance and retirement benefits, as well as almost $900,000 in capital outlays. Your general fund balance at June 30th was $40.5 million. Of that, it represents prepaid items of $1 million, as well as unassigned general fund balance of $39.5 million. That represents 20.2% of the fiscal year 2020 general fund budget. That is above the district's required amount to be held in general fund budget of between 15 and 18%. Overall, looking at the total governmental fund balances, that amount was $63.5 million at June 30th. So at this time, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding our audits. Yes?
Green light, is it green light?
Green light?
Hold it there.
Yeah, there it is, okay. Mr. Hodges, on page 24 of your report, it talks about capital projects fund of $13,184,023. That is a timing situation, I think, where you've got, we issued $10 million worth of bonds for repairs and so forth.
Correct.
So what is the, can you tell us what the residual, without the, once you paid the annual $10 million, what would the residual that remains in that capital fund be? Do you have any idea?
I don't have that, those numbers in front of me. So that's, you're saying in the capital fund, there's $13.5 million in fund balance?
$13,184,000.
Right, so then you would have to take that and just back out again those annual required payments to get to the net amount. I'm not sure. Again,
My question is, as an auditor and accountant, you should know this, I guess. If you finish a project and say the project, is under budget by some amount, okay, that money falls back to this capital budget account. Does that money have to then be put back into general fund?
no, it is held in the capital projects funds for use, required capital outlays.
Okay, so does the amount of money that's in the capital budget, does it get invested somewhere?
Yes, there are state, it's called local governmental investment pool. Those funds are invested with the state.
Okay, so if you have a requirement I mean, that's liquid though. I mean, you can get that out at any time. You don't have to wait for the maturity of some bond or something like
Correct.
that. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, but I don't know, I guess we'll have to find out from other sources what's left in there, but that's intriguing me that, you know, that could be left in there. I thought it had to go back to general fund. I mean, if you have an amount that's allocated for certain bonds, let's say we sold $10 million worth of bonds and we didn't use the 9,800,000. We had 200,000 left over. That was in a bond fund that the county requires you to keep, right? Okay, well, how does it get out of there? That's what I'm trying to get at. How do you remove it from that bond fund for that particular project?
It's not in there for a particular project. The county actually invests that in the local government investment pool. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, you are. I mean, I thought it was in an account for a specific project, and it had to stay there until the completion of that, and then it flowed back, you know.
It stays in that, it will stay in that investment pool, and they keep each year separate, so you have a separate investment for each year that you sell bonds, $10 million. So it stays there, but if there's funds left over, once we finish all the projects, it can be used towards other capital projects.
So, but the only way that we can use that is for this board to vote on that, right?
No, sir. I mean, we do it all the time. That's where we end up doing some of those things that schools may identify. We do some flooring things, emergencies come up, those kind of things. So you don't vote on it necessarily, but we do inform you of what's going on with those funds as we go along.
Okay, and that answers it.
Any other questions? Ms. Hammond?
We have a lot of discussion over the years about fund balance. I'd like, just as our accountant, tell me the amount, and I think I wrote it down right. This shows 3.8 million fund balance for 2019. Is that correct? Is that right?
So the general fund balance actually increased by $3.8 million.
Okay.
The fund balance itself was $40.5 million.
That's what we're doing. So our total is what?
The total general fund balance was $40.5 million.
Okay. And fund balance actually builds up each year from the taxes we've taken in that we didn't spend.
From all of your different revenue sources, whatever revenues you bring in, that in excess of your expenditures. So it's the reserve, essentially what's left over.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Questions for our auditor? Mr. Cates.
Back to fund balance, so I want to be clear that the total fund balance, but the unrestricted is what our policy addresses.
That's correct.
And that is 39.5 million. Our policy recommendation is 15 to 18%, and I believe you stated we're at 20.2%. So
That's
we're
correct.
very close to that.
Absolutely.
Mr. Levis.
You know, I'm a businessman, and I've been taxed on excess retained earnings. Okay, you know, that's a typical situation. In other words, they want you to distribute those and pay taxes on it twice if you're a type C corporation. But in something like this, is there a limit to the amount that is, I know you said that it's recommended to have 15 to 18%, but we're at 20.2% now. I mean, what happens if it goes to 25%? I know that's good for bond ratings for the future, but there reaches a point where that's. Is any kind of person that raises a red flag on that? So
There's not a cap on the amount. There's not a red flag that says, if you get to this point, we've gone too far. It's really a balancing act that management has to strike in evaluating, preparing that budget, and that you as a board have to evaluate how they've done in setting that budget for reasonableness and making sure that that fund balance, that the anticipated fund balance, stays in close to that range. What your board has set as a minimum. The state, of course, has their minimum, which is much lower. It's about 7%. What they say it has to be at, otherwise you're starting to get into the fiscal emergency type situation. But yes, there's not a set cap or a limit that if you get above this point, you're going to be in trouble or someone's going to start raising flags. But again, it's a balance. Like you said, you just want to make sure that you're using the funds properly.
I wanted to add, and thank you for the audit, this is the first year that your firm has done this audit. And I think that's recycling, and what I see is a very clean audit report. I guess the flip side of what Mr. Lovis and Ms. Hammond have mentioned, we're in a position, I'm sure you have audit reports where budgets are projected, but they come up short. So we're in an ideal situation. I don't know the percentage, I don't know this, but the $3 million growth represents, Mr. Richardson, probably what percent of our overall budget?
I don't know if I can do that in my head, but you can.
I figured you'd already done that. And you don't have to do that. I just think that it shows great management of funds. It's a great position to be in. And I have a memory that takes me back to 2008, 2009, when things in this economy weren't well. You were an auditor at that time too. We had to use fund balance to actually balance our books. We did it on more than 1 year. And we had a situation just a few years ago, start of school. Ms. Hammond, you probably remember this, and Mr. Lovis, I'm sure you heard about it. We had a mold issue in several of our schools, and it was a costly venture. So that's where this came into play. It was a one-time expense, we paid for it. I just want to publicly thank the people that watched the dollars. And we came out and we grow the fund balance. That's not our goal. I'm sure the goal is to break even dollar for dollar. But it's a wonderful position to be in and not the opposite of that. I just want to publicly state that. And I'm sure you've seen that, and we all have experienced things. And we're all hearing about a new formula to fund schools that we don't know if it's going to happen or not. But in every scenario that I've seen, and we were all, most of us at a conference this weekend to talk about it, this district doesn't fare well in any of the formula projections at this point. We could be a loser. There are always winners and losers. And that fund balance that we have may well come into play. It won't last long. I know that the percentage of that balance of our budget is mostly personnel. It's probably 90% or better, most of it. So just a few months and we would be in dire straits. So it could happen. I just want to point out it's a great position. We're not trying to grow fund balance, but it's a much better position to come up short and making up differences. Any other comments on fund balance and our budget? Ms. Hammond.
I have one more for Mr. Richardson from the comments you made. I certainly understand about fund balance for an emergency like that mow. I mean, you've got to have a savings. How many times have we used fund balance to buy property?
I don't know if in history,
In
but
your
I can
time.
tell you,
In your time.
since I've been here once.
So would you think that that's a really good reason to use it? I mean, that's one of the reasons we do have a savings.
Right, yes, ma'am. Anything non-recurring would be a good use of that.
I'm going to follow up with that. Maybe you can answer, Mr. Hodges. If the district bought property and then it did a project on that property, bought the property in 1 year, paid with it, fund balance, and then it sold bonds for the entire project, wouldn't it be proper to reimburse the fund balance for the amount that the project property was going to cost once the bond, proceeds were received?
So you're saying purchase part of the property, or maybe a deposit on the property first?
No, I'm just saying, let's say in 2019, we bought a piece of property for $1 million. And then in 2021, we built on it and we sold bonds to build, a building on that out of 8% bond and 8% money. Wouldn't it be proper to reimburse the $1 million out of the fund, out of that proceeds that you got from the sales of bonds at that time? Because it seems to me that you'd be understating the value of the project.
Okay, so that would
Yeah,
come
I'll
into
take that
account.
one if you like.
Yeah.
Mr. Loveless, that is an appropriate thing to do. It's actually, if it's written into the official statement, which in the case of the last, the $30 million, that was written in that we could reimburse us, and there's a time period that we can go back to reimburse ourselves for those kind of things, and I'm not sure that that land purchase falls within that time period.
Okay, any other questions? We appreciate the audit, appreciate the work coming in cold, new district and giving us great news. Again, which reaffirms that the good things are going on in the finance office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank Mr. Hodges again, and I would also like to make sure that I thank Mr. Richardson. I'm not sure my mic is picking up, so I'll just try to use my cafeteria. I'd like to thank Mr. Richardson for his leadership. Mr. Shealy, if you would please stand up on the top row, please. Also, Ms. Frick, Ms. Connie, thank you for, and Ms. London, Leanne London. This group has led the efforts to make sure that we were ready to be successful for this, so please, let's join in thanking these.